Good morning, everyone, and welcome out to the Stone Dolphin Complex. My name is Ellie. I'm one of the animal care specialists here at Clearwater Marine Aquarium. Joining me poolside are some of my colleagues. In the middle over here, we have Anna and Ariana, and up front we have Sydney, Kelsey, and Rhea. But even more importantly, we are joined by several of the bottlenose dolphins who call Clearwater Marine Aquarium their home. So please join me in saying a nice big hello to all of these dolphins. You can go ahead and wave to them, and they will come on over and wave back to you all.
Here it comes, my name.
All right, very nice. So you just met Hope, Izzy, Squirt, and Nicholas. They are the 4 bottlenose dolphins who live here at Clearwater Marine Aquarium. Hanging out behind me, we also have 6 rough-toothed dolphins. They're a little bit of a different species. Now, all of these animals are deemed non-releasable. That basically means that they can't go out into the wild, and that's for a variety of different reasons, including being orphaned at a young age, like Hope and Nicholas, being removed from the wild due to illegal human interaction, like Izzy, or like Squirt, being born under human care at a different facility. Now, because they are all permanent residents here with us, it becomes our responsibility to give them all of the care that they need to live long, healthy, and happy lives, and we provide all of this care using training. Now, we do train these animals for 3 main reasons. The first of which is called husbandry. Now, that's basically a fancy word for medical management. So, we do train them to participate voluntarily in all of their health care. This can be a variety of different things, the most simple of which is called a layout. That's essentially where we ask them to present different parts of their bodies. For example, Izzy up here is in a ventral layout, where she's showing her stomach or her ventral side. Nicholas is participating in that as well on the other side. We can also ask them in a dorsal layout, where they show us their dorsal side or their back. We can even ask them to show us their pectoral flippers, their mouths, their tail flukes, their eyes, the inside of their mouths, so that we can see their teeth and their tongues, all those different parts of their bodies, which allows us to do a daily physical examination every single morning, so we can look over their entire bodies from the tip of their face all the way down to the end of that tail. This means that we can be proactive about their health care. If we notice any bumps, bruises, injuries, anything that we're concerned about, we can always report it to our veterinary staff who is on site. Now, that's going to bring us to the second reason why we train these animals, and that is for their cognitive stimulation. Now, they are very intelligent animals. Out in the wild, they have to do a whole lot of problem solving every single day, including having to do things like navigate the wide open ocean, hunt for their own food, avoid predators, even raise and nurture their young. Of course, when they live here with us, the experiences and challenges that they have are a little bit different. So it's up to us instead to provide them with those more challenging behaviors that get them to problem solve every single day. Now, the best way to get them to use their brains is simply to teach them new things. Kind of like when you're in school, you're learning, you're really having to use your brain. When these animals are learning, they are using their brains as well. So, around the pool, you might see some of our trainers holding what we call a target pole. That's basically a long pole with a buoy on the end of it. Now, when animals first get here, and they're first starting their training, they are taught to what we call target. Now, they can target to our hands, or really to any other part of our body, but one of the most helpful tools that we have is asking them to target to that pole. So if you look all the way over to my right or your left, that target pole. Now, usually they're taught to put their rostrum, that's the front of their face, on that target pole, or simply to follow the buoy on the end of it. Because we can't communicate to these animals with our words what we want these behaviors to look like, Instead, we can actually use that target pole to show them, moving it around so that they follow it, touch it. We can even ask them to touch different parts of their bodies to that target pole. From there, we can do what we call approximations to teach them a new behavior. That's doing a little bit at a time. If you are learning math, you're not going to start with calculus. You'll start with learning how to add 1 plus 1, 2 plus 2. As you progress, you're getting better at it. Then you'll start learning harder things. So we want to start out with the simple things and work our way up to the more complicated behaviors or the more complicated parts of the behaviors. Those target poles are also helpful not only for showing them types of behaviors, but also for really pinpointing specific parts of the behaviors that we want them to do, such as location, duration, speed, height, distance, all those different types of things. And from there, we can be really precise about their training. Hope is showing you what some excellent targeting looks like over there. You'll notice that she kept her rostrum, that's the front of her face, touching that target pole the entire time. Of course, when she does it correctly, she's going to get some nice fish to show her that she did a great job and continue her learning. Now, every behavior that you see here had to be taught to these animals, and many of them are taught with targeting. So Izzy over there, she's working on the basics of targeting, working her way up to getting over towards that target pole, touching it, doing a good job at doing that. So throughout this session, you may see us using that target pole a little bit more, and you can see how we really start to train these animals. That's going to bring us to the third and final reason why we train our dolphins, and that is for their physical exercise. These are very strong, very athletic animals. Of course, out in the wild, they're going to be swimming around a whole lot. When they're here with us, in order to keep them fit and healthy, get their physical exercise in, we'll ask them to do high energy behaviors each and every day. This can include things like swimming super duper fast around their pools, slapping their tails on the surface of the water, pumping their tails so that they're almost walking over the water, or even, perhaps more, most excitingly, asking them to jump up and out of the water in a series of different aerials. Now, when they're doing these behaviors, one of the most important things that we're looking for is simply that they are using all of their energy. Nicholas over here is demonstrating how strong their tails are. Hope over on the other side is demonstrating just how high they can jump up and out of the water. Let's see what Izzy has to offer.
Let's see, won't come out there.
All right, that is pretty impressive, so let's give a nice big round of applause to all of these athletic dolphins. Now, of course, these animals would not be able to do any of these super cool behaviors you just saw without a number of different adaptations that help them to both survive and thrive in their underwater environments. The first of which you're seeing right up front with Izzy, the front of their face, that's called the rostrum. Now that rostrum looks a little bit different for our two different species. These bottlenose dolphins have a shorter rostrum that kind of looks like the neck of a bottle, which is where they get their name. Whereas these rough-toothed dolphins hanging out behind me, their rostrum is a lot more elongated and streamlined because they are a deep water species. Now inside that mouth, they have about 80 to 100 cone-shaped razor-sharp teeth, which they use to latch onto their fish, but not actually to chew. These guys only swallow their food completely whole. On the top of the dolphin's head is that blowhole. So dolphins are mammals like we are, so that is how they breathe air. But that's also how they make all of their different vocalizations and whistles. So let's take a listen. Now, all of these silly sounds you just heard, They come directly from the dolphin's blowhole because they do not have vocal cords. So instead they use the air in their lungs. On either side of the dolphin's body is a pectoral flipper. Now usually we ask them to wave with these flippers. But they're also important for steering and stopping. On the dolphin's back is that dorsal fin. Now whereas those flippers have bones inside of them, making them more easy to manipulate, the dorsal fin is made out of cartilage, so instead it's there for stabilization and balance. Something super cool about that dorsal fin is that it is actually unique to every single dolphin, kind of like a human fingerprint. So if you're having some trouble telling these 4 dolphins apart, be sure to take a look at that dorsal fin. And finally, of course, we have the dolphin's tail, which is made up of 2 different parts. At the very end are those tail flukes, which help propel them forward through the water. But the most important and strongest part of the dolphin is going to be what's called their peduncle muscle. Now that's the area in between that dorsal fin and those tail flukes. It's their strongest muscle where all of their power comes from. It's what allows them to do all of those high energy behaviors. Let's take a look. Alright, impressive again. Let's give these dolphins another nice big round of applause. Now, we do want to remind you that although you see us interacting very closely with all of these dolphins, this is only because they have been deemed non-releasable and they cannot go back into the wild. You would never see us interacting in this way with wild dolphins, and in fact it is illegal to do so under the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972. We share Izzy's story in the hopes that she is not only the first, but also the last dolphin to ever have to be removed from the wild because of illegal human interaction. Now here at Clearwater Marine Aquarium, we are a working nonprofit marine life hospital. That means that everything we do here, we simply couldn't do it without all of you. Even just walking through our doors today, participating in our programs, you help us continue our mission of rescue, rehabilitation, and release. So on behalf of myself, all of our animal care specialists, and of course, all of these dolphins, thank you so much for visiting. Bye everyone!
Okay.